March 1943, Vickers Armstrong's testing grounds, Newcastle upon Tyne. Military observers stand 50 yards from a sandbag wall. A commando fires 7 rounds at the target. Not one observer identifies the sound as gunfire, the bolt working louder than the shot itself. One witness describes it as similar to a pellet gun. Another compares it to a door closing. The Lisle commando carbine had just demonstrated something no Allied weapon could match: rifle accuracy at 200 yards, a report barely louder than conversation, and stopping power that dropped targets instantly. The challenge confronting British special operations in 1942 was devastatingly straightforward. Sentries had to be eliminated without sound. Coastal incursions required absolute stealth. Operating behind enemy lines, a single gunshot spelled mission catastrophe, apprehension, execution. The well-rod pistol functioned at contact range, 7 yards at most. Beyond that distance, accuracy disappeared entirely. The silenced Sten discharged 9mm ammunition at 1,120 feet per second, supersonic velocity, generating an audible crack that no suppressor could neutralize. American silenced weapons utilized 22 long rifle cartridges, effective at 50 feet but deficient in the power necessary to guarantee immediate incapacitation. What commandos desperately required was a rifle. What they received instead were pistols masquerading as adequate solutions. The well rod could kill silently, but exclusively if you pressed the muzzle directly against the target. 15 feet distant, accuracy became hypothetical. 30 feet became impossible. 7 rounds in a magazine meant 1 sentry per weapon, unless you could reload while the guard tower swept searchlights looking for your position. The integral suppressor deteriorated after 10 to 15 shots. Rubber baffles disintegrated from heat and pressure. Each mission demanded fresh weapons or acknowledgement that the suppressor would malfunction during the operation. The silenced Sten Mark II offered capacity, 32 rounds, but generated mechanical noise from its reciprocating bolt mechanism. Every shot cycled the action: metal components sliding against metal, springs compressing and releasing. The suppressor decreased muzzle blast to 89.5 decibels, but the action noise undermined the purpose. Fire it on full automatic mode, and the suppressor baffles would fail within magazines. German sentries might not detect the shot, but they would absolutely hear the weapon operating. German forces confronted the identical problem but never resolved it. Experimental MP40 suppressors tested at Kummersdorf in 1943 required specialized subsonic 9mm ammunition that was never standardized for manufacturing. Karabiner 98 rifle suppressors existed but saw virtually no distribution to combat units. The fundamental German failure centered on ammunition. Standard 9mm Parabellum and 7.92 by 57mm Mauser were supersonic. Physics dictated that supersonic projectiles create sonic cracks that no suppressor can silence. Without subsonic ammunition in inventory, German suppressor development hit an insurmountable barrier. Britain possessed an advantage British planners initially failed to recognize. American Lend-Lease provided Thompson submachine guns and Colt 1911 pistols, both chambered in .45 ACP. The cartridge was already integrated into British supply chains. More critically, .45 ACP was inherently subsonic: 230-grain bullets at 830 feet per second. No sonic crack, no special ammunition required. Standard military ball ammunition worked perfectly. The solution existed in British armories. It simply needed someone to recognize it. William Godfrey de Lisle was born in South Africa in 1905. By age 16, he was experimenting with homemade suppressors, fashioning them from cocoa tins to quietly shoot rabbits with .22 rifles. He refined the concept over 2 decades, building progressively more effective designs. When war arrived, he joined the Ministry of Aircraft Production. His suppressor expertise remained unknown to military planners until meat rationing forced his hand. Lisle constructed a silenced .22 Browning semi-automatic pistol for poaching, small game on the Berkshire Downs, quietly dispatching rabbits for the table while technically violating rationing laws. Major Sir Malcolm Campbell observed the weapon. Campbell held world land and water speed records. More relevantly, he served in combined operations under Lord Louis Mountbatten. Campbell understood immediately what Lisle had created. Not a poaching tool, an assassination weapon. Campbell brought Lisle to Combined Operations Headquarters. Early 1943, demonstrations proved the concept. Lisle fired the weapon from the roof of the new Adelphi building in London, shooting into the River Thames. Pedestrians on the embankment showed no reaction whatsoever. Another test at Wilkes Gunmakers near Piccadilly involved firing across the street at a chimney. Again, no one noticed. The Ministry of Aircraft Production released Lisle for full-time weapons development. Lisle initially tested 9mm Parabellum, but it failed catastrophically. The cartridge produced 1,120 feet per second, supersonic, creating the crack that doomed the silent Sten. 45 ACP solved everything. 830 feet per second, comfortably subsonic. 230 grain bullets provided stopping power that 9mm could not match. The ammunition was already in inventory through American Weapons. No special procurement required. Lisle selected the short magazine Lee Enfield Mark III action as his foundation. Proven, reliable, and readily available. The bolt action created no cycling noise. Manual operation meant the shooter controlled every sound. The suppressor design was revolutionary. 16 inches long, integrated into the weapon as a permanent component. The barrel came from Thompson M1928 or MA1 submachine guns cut to 7 to 7.25 inches of rifled length. Multiple vent holes drilled around the barrel circumference bled propellant gases into the suppressor before the bullet exited. This ported barrel design reduced the high-pressure gas column that normally produces a weapon's report. The gases entered an expansion chamber, where they cooled and decelerated. 10 to 13 duralumin baffles arranged in a spiral forced gases to swirl transversely to the bullet's path. This Archimedes screw configuration progressively reduced gas velocity. By the time gases exited the muzzle, they moved at near ambient pressure. Virtually no report. The counterbore muzzle prevented vacuum collapse. Normal suppressors create low pressure behind the bullet. When atmospheric pressure rushes back in, it produces an audible crack. Lisle's flared internal muzzle profile eliminated this entirely. Some versions included sound-absorbing materials between baffles, felt, rubber, or asbestos protected by thin brass sheets. The magazine well accepted modified Colt 1911 pistol magazines. Standard capacity was 7 rounds. Extended magazines held 11. The receiver modifications included removing the charger bridge, shortening the bolt by several inches, and recessing the bolt face for rimless 45 ACP cartridges. The result weighed 7 pounds 8 ounces, unloaded. Overall length 35.6 inches. Effective range 200 yards. Sound level 85.5 decibels. Ford Dagenham produced 17 handmade prototypes in the factory tool room. Final assembly occurred in the manager's ARP dugum. Lisle worked full-time, assisted by a foreman and craftsman from Holland & Holland and Purdy Company. Summer 1944, Sterling Engineering received a contract for 500 carbines, 450 standard Mark II commando models, and 50 airborne variants with folding metal stocks. The prototypes went immediately to British commandos for raids along occupied French coast late 1943. The first combat reports returned. Sentries died silently. German coastal garrisons never heard the shots. Burma provided the most detailed combat documentation. British snipers positioned themselves near roads behind Japanese lines. Ian Skennerton recorded this first-hand account. Snipers silently dispatched a Japanese soldier in each lorry that passed. The lorry would stop, but as no shot was heard, Japanese forces found it hard to believe they had been fired upon or from where. 2 or 3 snipers working one road bagged 3 or 4 soldiers in each lorry. Japanese units could not identify the threat. Men died. No gunfire, no muzzle flash. The psychological effect was devastating. OSS Captain Mitchell Werbel used the Lisles in Burma. His post-war testimony is precise. "We worked a couple against sentries before raids, and they were something else. Better than the stuff we were issued. Both our people and the British used them in Indochina. Merrill's Marauders used them to terrorize and scare the Japanese at night and in ambush. Jedburgh teams, Joint SOE and OSS Special Operations units also employed the weapon. American Jedburgh commander E. Michael Burke claimed 2 hits against field-grade Nazi officers early in 1944 using a Lisle left behind by an SOE operative. The most detailed operator testimony comes from Major Dyer McConaughey, 1st Battalion Royal Scots Fusiliers.